Welcome everybody back to another edition of Where Are They Now? And I'm here in Orlando, Florida. It happens to be Olympia weekend, and look who I found. One of the teenage wonders of the world, Jorge Betancourt, or Jorge Betancourt. I'm going to get that corrected because I was in California when this kid was doing big things in the teenage division, winning the USAs and the Nationals. And George, we are a long ways away from when you first came on the scene, the bodybuilding scene. How old are you today?
I'm 49 right now.
49 years old. And that's why this series is so good, because we could find guys that had a great run in the beginning and going on to do other things. You're a husband, you're a father, you're a businessman. Right. But you came on like a tornado out here in Florida. You were all over the magazines. And you were doing big things. You told me you got started as a powerlifter. Take us back to how that happened.
Well, Sean, when I was a kid, my father used to not lift weights as in bodybuilding, but he was into fitness. My father's always been into fitness. And I used to watch my father in Puerto Rico go to the rooftop and do some type of training there. I'm not sure what it was, but to me it always felt like it was something that a man needed to do. Don't ask me why, but it's just what I thought. You know, I was maybe 7 years old, 8 years old, seeing my father go to the rooftop and he would lift weights with maybe what they were plastic weights back then, you know, and I just thought it was something that people did, you know.
So you weren't really exposed to actually bodybuilding, but you were exposed to weight training.
Some type of exercise.
But at some point, not too long after, you must have took a liking to it and found out that there's a nutritional component to the actual overall look.
Absolutely. So then when I first saw that, I was 7 years old. Then obviously I didn't train or anything back then. But when I was like maybe 9 or 10, I was going through my father's drawers. And I found a magazine and the cover was black and white, and I saw a man with like these big biceps, and it must have been Arnold, but I didn't know who Arnold was, and it just impacted me. I used to draw, so when I see these muscles and veins, it was kind of like cartoonish to me, and it just kind of stayed engraved in my mind. And then it wasn't into a few years later, when I was 13 and a half, when I started experimenting more with it, you know, and it really began in my friend's backyard one summer, in the summer of 8th grade. We were just bored, and this kid named Oscar that lived around the neighborhood, his father bought him a weight set with plastic barbells, dumbbells, and we started training there. But being in Miami, it was so damn hot when we were laid on the bench because it was in the sun. He quit, and somehow I just kept doing it in my bedroom. I just kept doing push-ups and pull-ups, and then Christmas came, and I was 14 years old, and I asked my mom to buy me a gym membership. And so my mom took me to the gym. She signed up my dad. And me, she paid for the three of us. I think, if I remember, it was a lot of money. It was like $1,200. My mom went 3 times. My father never went, and I'm the one who stuck it through. And that was the beginning.
Yeah, it's amazing how people fall in love with something that's a passion, and then it actually becomes their life's work. You found your calling. You found your calling early on. When did you start to recognize physiques that you admired and respected? Who were they?
Well, back then, we used to read the magazines, and I would lay on bed reading the magazines and trying to get as much information as I could. I would just lay in bed reading the magazines. I didn't have money to buy the magazines, but I had a friend named Alex who was more upper middle class, and he had stacks of magazines. He was 15, and we would lay in his bed just reading the magazines. The first bodybuilding show that I noticed, I didn't even know there were bodybuilding shows, was the Nationals with Mike Christian, Matt Mendoza, I think. I saw that on TV. And I think from there on, I put everything together, and I just put everything together, and I said, okay, this is bodybuilding. I think I like this. I'm following this. And then a few years later, I got to learn about you, and then Lee Haney. It was, you know, to me, it was amazing because it was a dream. I would just lay in bed and I don't even know how to explain. So you know, my buddy had a stack of magazines, and we would just read them at home, and then I would. He didn't like reading the magazines, so I would take them back to my house.
Yeah.
And I would just just lay there and record the stuff that was going on in TV back then, because in ESPN they used to play bodybuilding, so I would record it and just watch it 100 times, you know.
Yeah, there's an interesting story about the 1983 Mr. Olympia, Samir Banu. He actually was a young teenager. They had, I think he said like 50 cents. Him and his brother were going to watch a movie, a Van Cleef movie, one of those old spaghetti western movies, and they stopped at a magazine rack and he saw his first bodybuilding magazine, and he made the executive decision after picking up the magazine to use the money to buy the magazine rather than go to the movie theater, and it changed his entire course of life and ultimately became the 1983 Mr. Olympia, the Lion of Lebanon, Samir Banu.
It's shocking, and then I had pictures of Samir Banu in my wall, and then a few years later I had pictures of you, and I made a collage of all these great bodybuilders. Like I literally got the best body part from each bodybuilder, and I cut it out and I made a nice big collage, because I think Samir Banu used to push that, like get a collage going. And
and we used to know the bodybuilders by body parts. You didn't have to see their faces. The attraction to the body, to the work of art, is so compelling that it can change exactly who you become.
Of course.
You went on to ultimately win the Teenage USA's, Teenage Nationals, become a cover model. Correct. You, at some point though, with all that, I thought it was fame because I was ahead of you. You're right. I was looking back, this is going to be the next big thing, and then I blinked,
and I was gone.
And you were gone. So this is where the Where Are They Now comes in, because you were gone, but you were busy. Talk about the absence and the reemergence.
Well, I won the Teen USA, my weight class. Dennis Newman won the overall.
He's my training partner, by the way, a couple years later.
And we're friends now, you know. I never spoke to him back then because he was my competition.
Right.
Then the following year, because I wanted to be like you, I wanted to be like Frank Santarelli, Shane DeMora, Lee Haney, Gaspari. I was still young. So when I won the Teen USA, I was 17. I'm going, okay, I got another 2 years. So the following year, the Teen USA got canceled, and they had the Teen Nationals, and everyone that was supposed to compete at the Teen USA went into the Teen Nationals.
Right.
But I had a full year to train for that. And somehow, as soon as I weighed in, I felt like I was gonna win. Like, I never had that feeling, but my training partner at the time, his name was Mo. I never forget. As soon as I took my clothes off to weigh in, and I turn around, and everybody's looking at me, and I'm going, okay, what's going on? And then when I look out the door, because Mo, my training partner, couldn't come in, I look at the door, he goes, you're going to win. And I looked at him and I go, oh shit, I'm going to win this. So I put my clothes and I walked out of the weight room, and I always remember, I shook his hand, I go, I got this shit.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing what a little confidence can do for a bodybuilder.
That's exactly what it did, man. It was an experience, because I wanted to be like you guys. And to me, like, back then, they used to show the teenagers on the magazines, which they stopped doing that many years later. And to me, honestly, Sean, that breaks my heart, because I think we're at a time. We have been in a time where the sport, the young kids are not coming up anymore, man.
Right.
And you need that, man.
You have to have these guys come.
You need that. I mean, you got guys competing now, turning pro at 40, when before, it was 20, 21.
Yeah, Gaspari was talking about that last night.
We even had Shane DeMora turn pro at 19, I believe.
Yeah, Shane DeMora and Eddie Robinson.
Eddie Robinson, imagine that.
Great teenagers coming up through the ranks.
So I got to compete. If you don't, for those that don't remember, at 19. So at 17 I won the Teen USA. At 18 I won the Teen Nationals overall. Then at 19 I got to compete in the men's Southern States.
How was that?
Right. Well, I went in hoping that I could place in the top 12, and I ended up winning my class and the overall in the Opens class.
That's one of Florida's biggest shows back in the day.
It was crazy.
Peter Potter put that on in Southern
Peter
States?
Potter put that on. It was crazy. I was just hoping to get like in the top 12.
Yeah.
Because now I was competing with the men, so I didn't know what to expect.
So now you actually can see how good you are. You competed.
I did, and I loved it, and bodybuilding to me was was my passion, but they're trying to catch up to you guys and trying to be, I was trying to be one of the youngest pro at that time. Yeah. I got a slight pec tear a few weeks away from the show.
Is that from doing bench press? Most guys I
never did bench. I hadn't done bench press to that time. I hadn't done bench press like in 4 years.
Okay.
So I'm warming up. I warm up with 135. I do 2 sets with that. I do 15 reps. I jump to 185 to warm up again.
Is this barbell or dumbbell?
With the bar.
Okay.
I do 2 sets, 15 reps. I jump to 225. I do 2 more sets, warming up. And then my first set was going to be 315. But I said, you know what? Let me do another warm up. So I warmed up with 285. And as I'm doing my set, I tell the guy next to me, because he asked me, why don't you ever do barbell? And I go, because I don't want to tear a pec.
Yeah.
And as I'm doing it,
boom,
I push up. And this to me was light. It's not light for the
done
human
this weight
body.
before, yeah.
I was I did a 485 when I was 19 years old, so I was strong. So 285 was still a warm-up for me. My first set was going to be 315. But again, back then I used, like for example, you were a lot smarter than I was. You used to train higher reps. Higher.
Right, I did.
I didn't train like that. My mentality came from powerlifting.
Right.
So, which was completely wrong. I should have trained more like a bodybuilder. I started training more as a bodybuilder as I got a little bit older, but then it was too late, you know?
Yeah. Well, the pec tear is a very common injury. We know that the great Rich Gaspari, Kevin Levrone, John Brown, these guys had great success. For Gaspari, it changed his career. I believe Kevin Levrone actually got better after his pec tear.
Well, he got lucky.
And John Brown, my mentor, was done. So when you have this pec tear, I'm sure you went through about a depression, a little bit.
No, because I was so young. I didn't believe in depression back then. And I honestly, at that age, you heal in months.
Yeah.
You don't heal in years.
Right.
So I'm 20 years old. Instead of healing in 3 years, I healed in 6 months. In 6 months, I was back up and running.
Okay.
So then I started running. Then I started training for the next, for the following show, which was the USA the following year. So I had a whole year to train, and I was looking amazing, better than ever. Evan Gelb came down. We did a photo shoot, and he had just finished seeing Dennis Newman.
Yes.
So he tells me, he goes, I just saw Dennis Newman, you look better than him. And remember, I'm in Miami, nobody sees what I look like, right? He goes, I just saw Dennis Newman, he goes, you're gonna beat him. And I'm like, okay, I'm just doing my own thing. Hurricane Andrew came.
Tell us about Hurricane Andrew. I live in California. I've only heard the mystique about that hurricane.
No, it's a real deal, man.
How was that?
It's the real deal. I mean, it's.
What did you see?
What did I see?
Yeah.
Well, a tree fell on my. That night I couldn't sleep, right? So I couldn't sleep. I was dying. I was dying.
What year is this? 89?
91, 92.
91. Okay.
And I hadn't slept in 2 weeks, because the month before you don't sleep very well. And somehow I had planned. I didn't know there was a hurricane coming, or at least my parents were telling me, and I wasn't paying attention. In my mind, I had planned that Sunday I was going to sleep no matter what. I was going to go buy NyQuil and take NyQuil and go to sleep. So I took my NyQuil, went to sleep. The next morning when I wake up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, a tree had fell on my window in my room.
Wow.
I didn't even know I slept through it. Because the NyQuil, I guess, is alcohol.
Yeah.
I put the pillow over my head. I guess I was knocked out. I felt something, and I just kept sleeping to 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. When I wake up, my father asked me, "Did you not feel a tree in your window?" I'm like, "I felt something, and sure enough, pure destruction. So I get to the gym, and I'm not sure. I know that there was a hurricane, and I see things falling all over. That had fallen all over the street. The light poles are down, but I'm in the zone. I'm training.
Yeah.
So I get to the gym, I see a guy on the phone, must have been the gym owner, and I see him in the middle of the gym talking to someone. He must be talking to the insurance company, and I'm knocking, let me in, and then I'm outside looking through. He lets me in, but when I get inside the gym, there's a hole in the ceiling, and everything is just like I guess paper and crap falling in the middle of the gym, and I train
around all that.
Around it, and then I train for 2 more days. And then on the third date, I just it finally hit me that this is not good. This is bad.
I say that to say this.
And I just pulled out. That's it.
We're in the middle of a pandemic, and you got the country shut down in certain places. We had bodybuilders getting ready for the Olympia. They couldn't get in the gym. They're doing push-ups. They're doing cardio. They're becoming very innovative to try to continue to train. The mindset of a bodybuilder, nothing was going to stop you preparing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not even Hurricane Andrew, which is a historic tragedy that happened in the state of Florida.
It was. Let me tell you, I went down to Homestead about a month later with somebody from California came down to to record it and to record the scenes and what had happened. So we went to Homestead, and I don't know if you've ever seen that, but everything was flat.
Like, it's devastating.
Like I seen imagine I'm seeing cement walls next to the sidewalk, like somebody's backyard, the cement wall, on the floor, and you're thinking, how does the wind knock down a cement wall? You know?
Right.
And it was shocking. And then I get to another gym, which was called Porky's Gym, and it was in a shopping center, and the whole place was looted.
Wow.
It was crazy.
I forget about that. Like, with
Crazy.
devastation and tragedy comes looting and criminal type behavior,
Crazy.
right? And there's no law enforcement there to like stop
No, there's nothing.
There's other things more important.
Yeah, and then going back to your question, what happened? Why did I disappear? So what,
Wait, before you say that, what happened with you and Dennis Newman in this competition?
So Dennis Newman went on and he won. I think he got second that first year in the USA.
Okay.
And then the following year, Dennis Newman turns pro.
Right.
And I saw Dennis Newman turn pro. And
He won the USA, and then
right.
he got
I
leukemia.
saw you go through your stuff, and I'm
Yeah.
going, man, that could have been me. You know, like I'm going, you know, I'm home, and I see you guys had this beautiful career.
Yeah.
I never talked, and then Dennis got sick.
Yeah.
And then back then, remember when you're competitive, you know, sometimes you're embarrassed to talk to each other. Or at least I was, because I was, you know, younger than most people. So I never got to talk to Dennis, and that always ate me up, that killed me because I saw him get sick.
Yeah. Leukemia.
But I was too embarrassed to, you know, I could get his phone number. So I gave him a message through Lou, like, listen, tell him I say hi, you know, and sorry for it. I don't know if that message ever got to him.
Right.
But then 20 years later, when I had my company, I got to cross him and we talked. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand. That ate me up when you got sick. I always wanted, you know, and I told him to his face, I go, dude, I was just embarrassed.
Yeah, it seems like we all cheer for each other in one way or another. Even what a lot of people do misunderstand about athletes, especially bodybuilders, that a lot of us come from a place of shyness. Some of us are anorexic or bigorexia, or we have inferiority complexes. We come with addictions, and we're trying to, you know, the gym is a therapy to help build our confidence, and also it also helps us get out of our own way. So even as good as you are on the outside, there's still these things of being maybe shy or a little insecure or embarrassed to approach someone that's more superior. But in your absence, you wound up doing a lot of great things. Not only did you continue to have a name that was present in bodybuilding, but you went on to start the Betancourt Nutrition, which is a huge milestone. Tell us how you got into that.
Well, when I got out of bodybuilding, and let me tell you why I got out of bodybuilding. I had a goal. My goal was by 21, if I wasn't making money in bodybuilding, my goal was to get out.
Right.
You know? So I wanted to turn pro at 20 in the USA. That didn't happen. 21 came. I mean, the following year came. Hurricane Andrew came. I was 21 years old. And I literally told myself, I go, that's it, you know, I got to become a man and grow up, because I was living with my parents.
Yes.
All my friends are getting married and moved out, and I just felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So at 21, I started questioning myself. I'm like, dude, I need to get out of my parents' house. So I had a little bit of money saved, and I opened up a small gym, you know, and I did that for 8 years. And I did great. I paid off the gym in 4 months.
What was the name of the gym?
It was called Inch by Inch
Inch by Inch.
Personal Training.
Nice.
You know?
Okay.
And we paid it off in 4 months. And then when I started the gym, I went with the intentions of, listen, I'm young. Let me do this for a few years, get my life together, become an adult, become a man. And if I ever want to come back into bodybuilding, I can always come back later, you know? But, for example, like I would read the magazine and see you were making a living. I wasn't making a living at 20, 21, and I'm like, dude, I need to make a living.
Yeah.
And that's why I went up, opened up the gym. And so I stuck to my 21 years of age goal to get out by that time. And then, so when I had the gym, on year 7, I started selling one product from the back of the gym. I found a manufacturer, and I came up with a product called Rip Juice, which was a liquid that kind of copied what VPX was doing, which was a liquid fat burner in a syringe.
Yeah.
And because I had a name down here, I was able to find a distributor. So I told myself that I was just gonna, you know, sell products. I had no goals of, I'm gonna sell products
To the world, right.
Right. And then so from one product, it led to then, oh wow, I made some money. It had a Fedra, so Fedra was selling. So then I said, I literally sold the gym, And with that money, I started Betancourt Nutrition in 2003, and I started with 3 or 4 more products, you know. But it was tough, Sean. There's nothing easy about it.
Everyone I've talked to, I mean, the Hall of Famer Lee Labrada, who started Labrada Nutrition, started with one product. Rich Gaspari, the Hall of Famer,
Right.
was selling out of the trunk of his car.
Right.
Everyone I've heard about that business, the start was very hard.
It's incredible.
But it takes the business mind and that bodybuilding background for you to stick to it and see it through. You built Betancourt up into this global brand.
Yeah.
And you were all over the country and around the world in different countries.
Yeah.
And so, what did your family think about that? Seeing the family name at bodybuilding shows and other athletes taking your products, and this was your brainchild.
Yeah, well, they you know, it was funny because I always wanted to prove to my family that this bodybuilding thing was going to pay off. And the first time I was able to prove it was when I opened up the gym. Because my mom thought I was crazy. My father liked it, but my mom thought I was crazy. So when I opened up the gym, I looked at my mom and I told her, I told you this was going to pay off.
Yeah, I mean, you came full circle with that. And a little known fact for all you guys out there, it's not where you start, but where you wind up. And you don't know where you're going to wind up when you start.
Correct.
How ironic was it that at somewhere before you sold your company, I was actually working for you,
Correct.
marketing and promoting the Betancourt brand in my retirement years, which we probably never foresaw that happening back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Of course. But I want to say something, you know, I want to say something and give credit to, you know, when I had Betancourt Nutrition, there was a time there where I had business partners and investors. It got to a point where I'm not just doing everything.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of great people that helped build that company. I would never have been able to build that up by myself.
I think that's probably the best thing you did is get people smarter than yourself to help work.
It's humanly impossible to do that by, and whoever tells you they do it on their own, nobody does it on their own.
Well, in hindsight, now that you've gotten out of the bodybuilding world, you've had a couple of surgeries, you said, in your retirement that you've had to overcome and struggle with, but you're here at the Mr. Olympia. How do you see the sport now? Because I know you don't see it the same way when you were that teenage kid.
You want me to be honest?
That's what this is about. We need some clarity in your latter years. You're almost 50.
Look, at least I can speak because nobody pays my bills, and I don't want to sound
negative, but you got to tell it. What do you see? No inspiration, no motivation.
Nah, man. There's only 3 guys that look great, or 2. The rest is trash.
Yeah, it's not something that you want to look like today.
No. As a matter of fact, I saw yesterday the women's fitness, and like I was telling you yesterday, that look is what inspired me to be a bodybuilder. You know, because to me, bodybuilding was, man, you guys were like Greek statues, man, like gods. That's what I used to look up to when I was a kid. And again, I come from an art background. My brother's actually a famous artist. My brother sells paintings. I'm not kidding, Sean. My brother sells paintings for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. But you can find my brother in museums.
Yeah.
Right? So I know art. When I look at the bodies today, except for 3, it's not art.
Yeah.
It's not art. It's not beauty.
It's definitely changed. And I think the older you get, the more clarity you can see that
it's not beauty.
You don't see yourself up there, something you want to be.
No,
like you saw people you wanted to be like.
Yes,
and now that's gone.
It's the beauty, man. The beauty. Listen, I used to look at you guys like shining stars, man. Like I just don't see it, man.
And while we have more athletes participating now than ever before, back then we had 2 divisions: women bodybuilding and men's bodybuilding. Now we have physique. We have classic physique, we have the 212, and we have the open bodybuilding. Do you think the classic physique is trying to recapture what's missing?
I think that direction, although it's not for me, I think that's the right direction to save the sport. And obviously it has saved the sport because there's really not too many people competing. I mean, when you get here to the Olympia, great show, everything's freaking phenomenal, everything is put together perfectly. But I just don't see the caliber, man, of people.
Yeah.
You know, the people are in those physique classes and the other class, whatever it's called. But I see that as the savior of bodybuilding.
So since we don't have the magazines anymore, where can a young teenager find that inspiration? Are they looking at Instagram or are they looking at YouTube?
Man, Sean, listen.
Or do they need to go back and find and do the homework? Find those origins of bodybuilding and learn the history.
Listen, when I was a kid, man, and I would see someone like you winning, what was it? You won the Teen Nationals, right?
Yes, I did.
To me, that meant like, wow, this kid is strong, has a beautiful body, must be cool. I don't see that today, so we need to bring these young kids back up again, I just don't see anybody even trying. Yeah. So I used to read the magazine and find all this information on teenagers because it used to be covered so well, and because you have kids like me back then reading these magazines, and you have kids coming up. But it was very hard. I remember it was very hard for me to relate reading an article of Mr. Olympia when I'm 18 years old. And I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. I've always felt like there's someone needs to speak for these kids, and I never saw it. That's why I kind of promoted myself as a teenage champion, because I never saw anyone doing. And going back to what I was telling you guys, when I was a kid and I would read the magazines, I could find some stuff in teenagers, but I couldn't relate to somebody who's 30 years old or 28 or 26. I just couldn't relate to somebody. You know, they're lifting 485 pounds.
They're men.
Right, they're men, exactly. And they're lifting dumbbells, 60-pound dumbbells, 80-pound dumbbells, and I'm like, I can't do that. Yeah. So it was a no-no. So I had to look for, people
that had done it that are your age.
Exactly,
right.
Man, exactly.
Well, speaking of fast forwarding, you're 49 years old, you said?
49.
And married with kids?
I have 2 kids. I have Sean, who's 17, and I have Dustin, who's 11.
And are they active in sports?
One of them is more into graphics and doing videos and stuff like that. And then the other one, he's 11. I have him in football every day and in every sport. I've taught him from squash to tennis, football, soccer. I'm trying to get him to go to the gym just so he can see me. Every single sport out.
So you are here. You're here at the Mr. Olympia Championships. Are you still passionate about it? I mean, is it more of a reunion to see some of the people you haven't seen in a long time? Or the good fortune the Olympia is actually in the state of Florida?
Listen, the industry and training and being fit, I've been doing this since I was 14 years old. I don't know what to do without it.
Yeah.
I can't. You put me to do something else and I'm just not happy.
Yeah.
As long as I'm around the industry, I'm happy.
You're alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's me. It's unfortunate, like people question me for that. I'm like,
it seems to be a common thread. You know who else said that? Joe Weider. Once it gets you, it gets you every part of your being. Even when you're not working out, being around people that are health-minded and health-conscious and around the best in the world, it gives you a sense of being alive.
Of course. Well, Sean, to be honest with you, I'm working in a small brand that hopefully, I wanted to get it ready the beginning of this year, but obviously things did not turn out that way.
Down.
Right, and because I could take my time now, I'm kind of, playing around with it.
Yeah.
I'm going at my own pace.
Okay.
So I'm trying to do that. And then I'm just going to continue being involved in the industry. It's just who I am,
Well, you're in the right place, man. And a lot of people that were wondering what George or Jorge. We started it off that way. How do you say it?
George.
We're
in America,
well,
man.
Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah, Puerto Rico. Yeah,
and when you're there, it's Jorge.
They call me by my middle name, Alex.
Alex, okay.
My nickname in Puerto Rico used to be Dinamita, which is dynamite.
Dynamite.
That used to be.
Nice. You're still a little firecracker to me. All right, for Jorge Betancourt here in Orlando, Florida, and where are they now? I'm Sean Ray.